I don't have to be this mold that society has placed on me. I don't have to be the standard that other people tell me that I'm supposed to be or need to be. Like, I'm actually here just to be myself.
In this episode, we will learn how to master our mindset and create a life by design. An international speaker and human behavior specialist is going to help us with this. Welcome to the show, Carly. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Toby.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode for Soulful Conversation. I'm looking forward to learning so much from you. Like I said before we started recording, I was like, while preparing for this conversation, I did not know what to focus this conversation on. I was just like, because you teach a lot of people, your clients, you teach them a lot of things. You help them with their challenges, you help them with mastering their mindset, you help them, with overcoming imposter syndrome, a lot of things basically that we all need in our day-to-day lives. For this conversation, I would just like to start out with learning from you, learning from your life journey so far, like we do in almost all the episodes for the listeners that are listening to our podcast every time. So the question I have for you, first of all, is I'm interested in knowing, at what point in your life did you get a deep understanding of who you truly are, and how did it show up in every area of your life?
Yeah, so this is really cool because we consistently have an understanding of who we are, but when we compare ourselves to the outside world, we disconnect from it, right? So I've had the opportunity, if I look back, like I really did know who I was as a kid, but I had all these shoulds, supposed tos, have tos, like what the world was supposed to look like, what I was supposed to look like, that I was very disconnected from the reality of what I loved investing in and what was important to me. So from a very young age, I've been investing in things that I really love, really love. But I thought all that was like bad, wrong, and I should be doing something different. So I didn't ever feel connected to it until late 20s, early 30s. Like that's when I really started to connect with, I don't have to be this mold that society has placed on me. I don't have to be the standard that other people tell me that I'm supposed to be or need to be. Like, I'm actually here just to be myself. Like, it really took me that long to actually learn that and integrate that. And that did come through personal development, because I know that we all have in our head that we should do this, we're supposed to do this, we have to. But what I didn't learn until that time was that those actually don't come from us. Those are according to someone else's opinion, someone else's feedback. And yes, it may be great and work for their life, but not everything that works for someone else is going to work for you. Not everything. Some components and bits and pieces we can pull from, right? But then at the same time, it's also making sure that you're not doing it so much that we become like this copycat, in a sense, trying to be this other person, because that's what we thought we were meant to be. That's what we were supposed to be, right?
Yes.
And so all of us innately are connecting with what we love on a regular basis, but we don't experience it and feel it when our perceptions are so off and we're so disconnected from the reality of what's truly important to us. We are just comparing ourselves and stuck in those comparisons. And then we feel disconnected, even though in reality, like, we're really trying to focus on everything that's important to us. It's a little bit of a catch-22.
Yes.
Yeah. When I say it's like in your head, like it really is in our head. Yeah.
That's very true. I mean, I can totally relate to that. I believe also that we keep on rediscovering ourselves, we keep on discovering new things about ourselves. We keep on understanding more about ourselves as we grow older, as we expose ourselves to personal development, self-improvement, and, to important tools that you provide and give to the world, basically. Also, I mean, I could totally relate with that, because I think of recent, I decided to let go of that knowledge or that belief I have to please everyone or I have to satisfy everyone. And, growing up, you believe that, oh yeah, you have to be, to play safe, to play right, you have to ensure that everyone is happy and satisfied. But no, you don't have to. As long as you don't hurt anyone and you are doing your best, then you are good to go. I mean, and so many other things that I'm getting to learn also about myself. That's why I'm so happy that you answered that question that way, because it really shows that we are not alone on our journey. You're comparing ourselves also, like you mentioned also. I don't know why that happened. Maybe you can help me with that. Why do we keep on comparing ourselves with other people?
Yeah. So our comparisons are a normal aspect of day-to-day life. So it's actually quite normal. And we think we're not supposed to have them, but it's actually part of our development journey, right? Every time we move forward, I want you to remember when you're a kid. right? When you were a kid, you were comparing yourself to different people than you were comparing yourself to today. And you no longer compare yourself to those people as a kid because there's certain things that you were comparing yourself back then that now you have certainty you have inside yourself, right? So maybe at one point it could be riding a bike, it could be swimming. You know, we all have different backgrounds and learn different things. But there's a time when we all compared ourselves to someone else who was riding a bike and they were better, right? And maybe present day, now you look back at that person riding a bike and you were like, they're not that great. Like, I'm actually better than I am now, right? So that comparison shifts, but now you have a new one because you have a new goal and you're working on something new. And now you perceive someone else is better at it than you. Someone else is ahead of you. The interesting thing is that nothing's actually missing inside of us, right? Nothing at all. So you may go one day and let's say you want to be a speaker, right? Let's say you do want to be a speaker and you go out and you start speaking. There is a learning curve to that. There's a genuine learning curve. When you say, I can't do it because I'm not as good as this person, you're basically saying that they're better than you. They have more experience than you. And in some aspects, it's right. They do have more experience speaking on this type of platform. However, you're a speaker, 100%. I was just working with a client and she's getting into speaking, right? And she's very nervous. And as we were going through it, she started to talk about what was inspiring to her, right? And I should just shut up and I just let her go off for like 15 minutes. And she was energized. She was alive. She just kept going and flowing and it's like she didn't miss a beat, right? And I was like, did you just hear yourself? And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, do you just hear what you just did? Like, I didn't say a word for 15 minutes for a reason. I said, I wanted you to hear what you're capable of when you're talking about something that's inspiring to you. And she's sort of just had to sit there and think about it for a second. And then she could start to see it in all other areas of life. And I said, where else does that show up? What else do you talk about that lights you up? What else do you talk about that gets you on one of those almost rants in a sense where it's like, I just can't stop giving out information. I feel energized and alive. And we went over all those details. And I said, if I said that's all that you have to talk about, you don't have to talk about anything else. And you just get to talk about that. I said, can you be a speaker? And she said, yes. Right. So now, as opposed to looking at all these other people and saying, you're the most amazing speaker. You've been doing this forever. You're better than me. She can go out and she can do just as well as I do. And I've been doing it for quite a while, solely because she's focused on something that energizes her, inspires her, and lightens her up. She's no different than me. She's been speaking her whole life. It's just been in a different crowd and a different audience. So we'll go out and we'll compare ourselves and we'll say we're not ready, even though we have that part of us just in a different form, right? And it's really cool because even with business as well, I've also had the opportunities. I love working with entrepreneurs, but even like when they start out, and I've had a lot of opportunities to work with a lot of moms as well who transition from being full-time moms to business owners, right? As things start to shift in their life. And they're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't have it. You know, my husband can do this and they can do that. And I'm like, dude, let's just break down your day, right? And if I break down the day, it's hysterical because you're watching someone manage a household, manage a team, bring them together, make sure they're getting everything accomplished on time. They're focusing, they're tracking the goals, they're metricing the goals of their kids, right? They're doing everything that I'm going to do in a business, but you're doing it with your family instead of a business. And when I say, what if I told you? All you're doing is those things, but instead of leading your kids every day, now you get to lead a kid in the office, right? You're leading the team in the office. Instead of having the goals of like, let's get this kid loves soccer. Let's make sure this kid like is going to get soccer. Your new goal is your revenue target for the end of the year, right? Instead of just being like, I'm going to go network with people at the school just to help my kid. Now it's like, you're going to go network with people maybe at the school to help your business. You're doing all the same things, but all I'm asking you to do is start to change the form, right? And it's funny because I also work with some of the dads and moms who like transition from business into being parents because they're like, I'm just focused on business the whole time and I'm not a good a parent as the other one. And then I go through it and I show them, I say, every person that you've nurtured in the team, can you see that you're helping these individuals in a team to grow like you would help a child to grow? And I'm like, what if you transferred that to your kid? You know, you're just not focused on the team anymore. You're doing it with the kid, right? And it's like, I can't do this and I can't do that. Can you see that you can organize a day? You can schedule your team. You can organize. You can stay on track. I was like, can you see that's all that your partner's doing? Are you able to help someone in a hard time and make sure they get to the other side when they can't get through a project? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, That's what you're doing with your kid. They just come from home from school and they have a hard day and you help them get to the other side. And all of a sudden it's like you realize nothing is missing inside you. You have it all. You just do it in your own unique values, your life purpose, what's truly priority and meaningful for you. And when you see that, it's like, well, I can do it, right? I've been comparing myself to this person this whole time because I thought it had to look this way. And then you realize that it can look so many different ways and that we have the skills and we can transfer them to whatever area of life we want, whatever area. Yeah.
That's so eye-opening. It's all about changing your perspective, like, and that way you're able to change your mindset also, like saying that, yeah, you have this skill in this area. For example, father who has been working all his life and now is transiting into becoming maybe a full-time father, or you say house father. No, I don't say that. I don't think so. I mean, taking up the responsibility of taking care of the children.
Parents.
Oh, stay-at-home parent. Thank you so much for that. Oh man, I'm based in Germany, and sometimes I miss my English words. Basically,
You're good. You're totally good.
thank you. So stay-at-home father, for example, one can apply all the knowledge, all the skills from the office to the household and achieve those goals that you want to achieve as a father to your children. Oh, that's awesome. One thing you mentioned that I'd like us to go back to is when you talked about the client that you had, the woman that you had, that wanted to become a speaker, but was comparing ourselves to, other people and saying, oh, I can become a speaker. And the question that came to my mind was basically, how can we fully mute all of the noise that comes from comparison and the people that we see around us? And how can we then tap into our true authentic self? Like find out that thing that is deep within us that we can do and then make use of it to fill our purpose.
Yeah. So this is rooted in our personal judgment. So sometimes we only assume a judgment is when we're putting someone down, right? And we see them as in a negative light. That's what we usually label as a judgment. But what we don't realize is that if we put someone in too far of a positive light, that's also a judgment. And it can make us gullible, right? Definitely makes us gullible. I have learned this lesson many, many times. Where I put someone too far in a positive light, I've assumed they have the answers, they have the information. And you'll see this. Like, think of individuals that you, in the beginning, had on such high regard and in such a positive light. Like, we're actually judging them, that we're infatuated with them, we're over admiring with them. And I want you to guys actually look at this, because you'll notice that there was a level of gullibility that came with that. And you started doing things that you normally wouldn't do. You started believing things that you normally wouldn't believe because this person said so. It's not that person's fault. It's because we made an assumption that they had more than we did. We put a judgment on them and we didn't see their other side. We didn't get to see that they were only human, right? So when we put that judgment on someone else, over admiring and infatuated with them, we become gullible to that information and we try to mimic who they are, right? So that's why the comparisons actually come in, is because we're infatuated with someone. And these are our hooks, by the way. We seek these. It's like, it's funny because it's like, if you guys can grasp it, if you can grasp someone that did that with you and you engaged in that dynamic with it, you'll feel that you sought them. It's almost like a drug, right? Like you needed it. And if you didn't have it, it felt kind of devastating to not have it. If you've one of the people who lost it, it felt devastating when you lost it. That's because that part hooks you. When we only have positives on something, it hooks you. The truth is that everything has both sides. I could sit here. I remember working with a client and we were working on his business. We're working on focusing on his business, and there were some challenges in the relationship, but they are dedicated to working on their business. That's their life purpose, right? And if I go in and I look, their business is doing amazing, right? They're doing amazing in their business. They're achieving their goals. They're reaching things that, that they knew they could get to, but just weren't enough certainty in themselves, right? They're like, this is what I want, Carly, but I don't know if I could get there because I don't have certainty in myself. And now they're actually achieving that. It's massive for them. I mean, we're talking about someone building like a $1 company, right? It's huge for them. Now, we could look at this and we could look at me and we could say there's all positives. But I even remember when we were going through the process, looking at it and being like, well, these are the challenges that are come with it, and preparing him for it. Because I said, like, the challenges that are coming with this, and we would go through it. And I was like, and I'm going to tell you, one of your biggest challenges right now is going to be your relationship. I was like, we're not focused on it. We're not working on it. This is your only goal. it is starting to go in the back end. If you don't work on it, I guarantee things are like the crap's going to hit the fan, basically. Right. And it did. It genuinely did. And so if I only put a positive label on myself, right, and I'm going to say I'm all good and I did the most amazing thing on the planet for this person, I'm not preparing them for the challenges that are coming. Everything is both sides. And then they get hooked. They can get hooked to me delivering results, not seeing that all the things that we love also come with an equal amount of challenge, right? And it's what challenge are you ready to face and willing to face, right? And he was willing to face that challenge. He was willing to face that challenge because this is something that was more important to him. And again, there's no right or wrong in this. We like as humans to put labels on it. Someone listening to like this who loves relationships is going to say that's wrong, but that's according to you and your life purpose, right? Where someone listening to business would be like, that's actually what I want, Carly, because that's them and their life purpose. Who's right or wrong? Nobody really. We both are right or wrong according to what we value most in our life purpose. And we're just going to pursue that path, right? So it's really catching ourselves. Like when we get caught in comparisons, know that you've got all positives on something. You're seeing it only for like one side when everything has two sides. Part of seeing the other side of something, not just the positive to the negative, but the negative to the positive, is getting you prepared. Because if you don't see it, that side's coming out anyways. It exists and you're completely unprepared. You feel blindsided. You feel shocked. However, it's been there the whole time. You just chose only to see one side of it. So asking those questions is like on all those things that we look up to, that we admire, is what are the challenges that come with this? It gives us the opportunity to prepare for a greater degree. And what's really cool is like, you'll see the challenges that come with it. And some things you're like, this ain't gonna work for me. Like, it's just not gonna happen. Like, I'm gonna go a different path. And other things you'll look at and you'll be like, yeah, it is coming with those challenges. And you know what? I still want to do it. You know, it doesn't actually deter you from doing anything. It prepares you to a greater degree in your business, your life, and everything. So that one's a really helpful one when we think about when we get those dynamics of coming in with the comparisons and the imposter syndrome. Will we put on a pedestal? Where are you labeling it as more one-sided and positive and not seeing the challenges that come with it? Not just to the other person, also to ourselves.
Yeah.
So we do this to ourselves. This is where we get really proud and self-righteous. And by the way, the universe is destined to help you humble yourself. So if you're really proud and self-righteous, we attract criticism, we attract humbling circumstances to take us back down to sight. None of us are immune from this, right? None of us. And it's really interesting because when we put ourselves on a pedestal, when we infatuate with ourselves, when we've got more positives than negatives, someone's going to come in. You're going to call them a negative Nancy, you're going to call them a Debbie Downer, but the truth is someone is actually just coming in to show you the other side of yourself because you're refusing to see it because you're a bit self-righteous in those moments, right? So it's a quite humbling thing to experience because oftentimes, well, most of the time, nobody teaches us. We're not actually understanding what is occurring, right? So it can be quite humbling to experience. But if you actually, in those moments when you're frustrated by the criticism you're receiving, if you're frustrated by it, you're proud. Ask yourself in that moment, where am I proud, right? And I like to ask myself that question because someone will come at me and I'll feel a little agitated and I'll be like, are you proud right now, Carly? And then it hits me and I'm like, you are being so self-righteous right now. I'm like, calm down. You know, like you really got yourself up there pretty high. And so it's a really interesting dynamic because that's also a component of leadership. Like if we can help to balance our own emotion by owning that part of ourselves, doing the reflection, you are not just the hero, you're also the villain. And being able to balance that internally, like it helps you to be able to manage your emotions when you do attract challenging circumstances, because that's going to be a natural part of your life. Yeah. 100%.
I mean, you are speaking directly to me, Carly.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah, I mean, using the example of the client that you had, you know, growing up his business and then, you know, making him aware of the challenges that he was facing is very, very similar to mine also because, how will I say it? I would say over the past years, I've chosen my career over other things, basically. And that's led me to sacrificing a lot of friendships, I would say also, because you know, wanting to chase bigger opportunities, maybe it has to do with relocating and saying goodbye to some friends, or maybe not saying goodbye, but, you know, the distance causes a lot of, you know, frictions to the relationship, or it lessens the occurrence or frequency of how much you see your friends and all of that. And yeah, and I was thinking about this some days ago, funny enough, like I was like, is it possible to have it all? I mean, for me to chase my career ambitions, my goals, my business goals, and at the same time, have the perfect friends around myself, like keep my childhood friends, like I will have wished to, keep every relationship intact, be in contact with everyone, have time to spend with everyone, which I currently do not have. So I was asking myself, I don't know if you could answer that question. Is there a way to have it all, to balance it all?
There's a yes and a no, right? Because the yes is that we already do have it all. Like technically we have everything that we desire in our unique life purpose, right? And then there's the no in the sense that we don't want to put unrealistic expectations on ourselves to be someone we're not, right? It is we're similar. We have a similar value and a similar drive. Again, when people are listening to this, it doesn't mean we're right. It just means that we have a similarity in what we like to go after.
Yeah.
Right? We have a similar goal. We have a similar purpose. Mine is definitely around business. So there are a lot of childhood friends who I have disconnected from. Now, is that a right or a wrong thing? Can I still have friends? I do have friends. Really transparently, a lot of my clients are actually my friends, like genuinely my friends. When I connect with them, they feel like friends to me. And I have certain ones that I have gotten so connected with that they are my friends now, like genuinely, like they come over for a weekend to come visit me and they stay with me. Like that's not a normal client coach relationship. My friends have transferred into the area of life that's most important to me, which is my business. And then the friends that I have now are ones that allow me to focus on business. And then when we connect, like we call it mastermind, like one of them in particular, like we call it masterminding, right? Where we just go back and forth, we shoot ideas off each other. We're both working on our businesses or life purpose, stuff like that. And that's masterminding. I get a lot of value out of that. It's unrealistic to expect me to come to your house, sit around, be at a barbecue, talk about paint colors. I don't know, talk about like the grass, talk about like just day-to-day stuff. That is unrealistic. It is massively unrealistic. It doesn't mean that it's bad or wrong. It just means that's beyond what's purposeful to me. I have a different life purpose. So if I'm trying to fit in that dynamic with the individuals and what they're doing, I immediately, I mean, that's when I become an introvert because I'm not interested in what we're talking about. Again, it's not a right or wrong. I want to emphasize this because sometimes we can put ourselves on the pedestal or in a pit, right? Where it's like, well, I can't talk to that person because they're not good enough and they don't know this information. Not true. Those people have information about things that I don't even tap into because I'm not interested. Sports. Oh my gosh. I do not want to talk about sports at all. I do not care. I will talk about athletes and the mentality of athletes. I know athletes solely because of the mentality of athletes. That's it. I can talk about mindset about athletics, but like just the crux of sports, touchdowns, stuff like that, I'm blank out, right? I blank out. It's so low on my values. Construction, can't do it. Don't talk to me about it. It's my nightmare. Architecture and creating things that stand the test of time and how you build a legacy, I'm into it, right? And so if you look at that, it's not that anything is good or bad, but it's also like give yourself permission to surround yourself with people if you want to have those conversations and you want to have friendships that last that are actually in similar things, similar values, because if they're not, you are going to leave. You're going to disconnect. And what becomes more valuable? Whatever you're doing day to day that you've replaced them with. And that's the truth. And know as well that these people on the other side, they've also replaced you. They don't want to talk about what you want to talk about. To the degree that you don't want to talk about what they want to talk about, they don't want to talk about what you want to talk about. And like, it's a gift that you kind of left their life because you probably, if I ask those people who I don't talk to anymore, they're probably going to say she's a little bit of a pain in the ass, right? Like genuinely. And I agree with them because for them and their value system, I am a pain, whereas with other people and what's important to them, like I feed them. So it's like, yes, can you create those friendships? Absolutely. But it is giving yourself permission to ebb and flow with life. Like what's important to me today, a lot of it will be important to me in 10 years, but there's going to be some things that shift and change. There's definitely going to be some components that I change with as my life transforms. And I'm going to want to have these different conversations and loving yourself enough to realize that that is not only happening with you, but that's also happening with your friend. And you'll notice that when you try to force relationships, you guys will be arguing more. You'll be more frustrated with each other You'll be shoulding each other to the greater degree. You'll tell your friends that, or even partners, that they should do this and they should be this way. And they'll tell you should do this and should be this way, because both of you actually aren't really enjoying each other's company for who you are. So it's, yeah, part of it is like, yes, we can create the life we want, but it's, again, you are both hero and you're a villain. You're going to be both sides, but loving and appreciating yourself for being both sides and realizing that both sides are actually natural. Because even in a balanced relationship where you really care about someone, you don't support them all day, every day. When you see someone walking into a fire that you care about, you do what it takes and you challenge them to be like, hey, like, this is, I see this happening. This is going to cause some trouble for you, and what's important. And the greater degree that they ignore that feedback, guess what? If you're a solid friend, you're going to go pretty hard on them. I know everyone hears this, and I know everyone has done this before. You are hero and villain. It takes both sides of you to be that kind of person that you would love to be for individuals that are your friends, your family, everyone in the world. Not everyone in the world. You're both sides. You're both nice and mean, and both are important to help others to get to the other side. Both are important for me. I can't function without both. People are nice to me, but they're also mean to me. But both of them are necessary to help me get to where I want to go. And when you realize that, it's like, you're like, I don't have to be all these things that I thought I had to be. That's where your authenticity comes through. And you just get to be yourself, you know?
Yeah. Embracing both sides of ourselves, the nice part, the very not so nice part, the good and the bad also, helps us to, actually fulfill our purpose, like you said, in life. Yeah. But a question that came to my mind right now when you are explaining all of that is, you talked about, our lives transforms. We transit from maybe one phase to the next phase. So I was just imagining myself, put myself as an example. Like right now, at my very young age, maybe I'm chasing career growth, chasing, business opportunities. And maybe I'll get to a point in my life where I will say my purpose in life is to be a father. I can't think about any other thing else apart from taking care of my 100 children, something like that. And then my friends also will change, because I only want to be friends with fathers and people that talk only about children and schools and
Yes,
whatnot.
totally possible, by the way. So when we think about our life purpose, this is a really fun question. Here's how it shifts, right? So our life purpose is, it could go for our whole entire life, right? This is kind of what it depends on. So like, I have a client who I was working with, and he was focusing on relationships. He had a goal to create a certain level of income. Now, can this individual create more income? Yes. Does he need to? No, he's super financially independent. Can he create more income? Absolutely. Are there people out there who are creating more income than him? 100%, right? 100%. He's one of the top earners, one of the top performers, but he still could do more. He doesn't want to do more. He's done. Why? He set a goal to reach that amount. That was his goal. It wasn't to be the wealthiest person on the planet. It wasn't to build wealth until the day that he died. It was to reach that number. So as soon as he reached that number, he contacted me, because he hasn't been in like a romantic relationship forever. And he's like, now I want to be in a romantic relationship, which is funny. He's one of the ones who I was like, how are you doing it now? Where do you do it in business? And how can you do it? So now he's in a romantic relationship. He found someone that he vibes out with, is inspired by. But it's funny because he did transition because he achieved the goal. His had an end goal, right? When I think about my life purpose, a lot of it has to do with learning. So I have learning in there. I don't think I can ever, I don't even think, I'm certain I cannot achieve. It's just, how am I ever going to be complete learning? Like, I can't, it's an it's an impossible goal, right? I can't achieve it, right? Like, even if I said I wanted to master one subject, like, everything is coming out so quickly on a daily basis of new things to learn about one subject. My brain literally, like, I'm going like this because I'm like, I cannot do this in like one lifetime. I'll never learn everything. So can you see there's no endpoint to that goal? So there's a low probability that that will transform into something else. The other individual had a very specific number, and so there's an endpoint to the goal. So that transitioned into something else. And this is really cool because if you look at your life, you'll see where there's certain things where it's like, wow, I was really focused on this area of life for a while. Maybe it was health. It's like I was really focused on health for a while, and then I achieved the body I wanted, and then I let it go and I started focusing on business. And I've been judging myself because I was like, I should still be focusing on health. But the truth is, is I reached the goal and now I moved on to the next thing. That's the truth. And so it's really great to know yourself in that aspect so you could see if things do shift and change, why they change, because we are also really good at comparing ourselves to the older version of ourselves. The other thing that occurs, which I know will occur with me, by the way, I haven't had kids yet, but I do know on a scientific level that changes my brain. Like literally having a baby in my body will change my brain in a very specific way. I am going to shift to a certain degree. I actually don't know what that's going to look like yet. It's a little bit of a risk factor. Not a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm aware that everything I say today about what I'm doing and what I'm committed to might have a slight adjustment. And kids could go higher or they could go lower on what's purposeful to me. I have no idea yet, right? But I do know that that changes the physiology of my body. It changes the psychology in my brain. So I do have certainty that something's going to shift. There are things like that that occur in our life that actually cause that. A traumatic experience will cause that as well. Rags to riches is a really cool example because people look at people who go from rags to riches and put them on a pedestal and think that they're doing something that they can't. That person had so much trauma, and you hear them when they speak about it. There was so much trauma in the level of poverty that they were experiencing for themselves, their family, their loved ones, that they dedicated their life to never having to go through that again. And so someone who didn't value building a business before, all of a sudden it becomes your main focus. Why? You went through a trauma. So that's another way that our values can transform, purpose can shift, right? It's really cool. The greatest thing that you could ever do for yourself is to understand who you are, right? And understand what your purpose is, what that looks like. And your life truly does demonstrate it. I really love business. My life demonstrates that. My life also demonstrates I really love fashion. I'm going to an event, and if I'm going to be really transparent with you guys, I have been thinking about the outfits that I'm going to wear for months, right? Months I've been planning it. Some people call it crazy. Some people will call it crazy. Some people will call me vain. It's been a life purpose. I've been into it since I was a teenager, like a young girl, like 13 years old. I started getting into fashion. So that's part of my life purpose. And I can see that that's what I think about. That's what I focus on. That's what I plan, right? Your life is going to have the same things. If I buy into someone else labeling that makes me bad or wrong or vain, then I'm going to shut that part of me down. But if I just give myself permission to realize that everyone has their own unique path and it doesn't matter. And I love myself for who I am. There is some vanity to it, but there's also not. There's also a great purpose behind it. Like I said, I'm a hero and villain. I'm vain. And I'm also not. I have purpose behind it. It doesn't matter. I get to be that. There's nothing wrong with that. We're all that. And that's okay. And it's like, that gives me permission to just focus on it no matter what. So instead of having that thought and being like, I shouldn't be thinking about this right now, I'll just sit there and I'll be like, yeah, okay, maybe I wear that day. I wear that day, these shoes, like it all goes in my head. And that's what's valuable to me. So it's really understanding that your mind is processing every day. You're thinking about, you're contemplating, you're making goals. You're achieving those goals on things that are truly valuable to you. You want to talk about it. You want to share with it. When you get in a social conversation, you want to connect with someone on it. When I go to this event, I guarantee you, like I definitely will connect with people, but you, me, and whoever else has another high value in fashion, we will lock eyes, we will find each other, and I'll be like, tell me where you got that, right? And we'll create a bond, right? I seek it. I search for it. I want to talk about it. I want to connect on it. Right. And it's the same with business. Like I love business. I want to talk about business all day long. I want to talk about personal development all day long. What do you do? What do you talk about? What inspires you? What fulfills you? What do you not shut up about? What do you spend the most money on? If you answer these questions, all you're going to see in your life is your life purpose behind that. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's not supposed to look like whatever you thought it was, whatever fantasy someone like sold you. It looks exactly like it is. And then we ask that, like that question is like, how do I invest more time in that? How do I invest more energy? You know, and if you look at my life, like I love my life because being in business gives me the opportunity to dress up. If I got to go to a meeting and I got to meet with the CEOs or executives or teams, you get to dress up, you know? So it's like that feeds, both sides feed each other. They go hand in hand. And when you can find things in your life where everything goes hand in hand, guess what? You love your job. I have a client, she loves networking. She is like networking queen. And so she works with businesses to help them create exit strategies. And why does she do that? She freaking networking queen, you know? So it's like she has all the network, she has all the people, she can connect people, and she makes money off of that through helping businesses network and like with each other to create exit strategies, to create like the best results. Like when I say figure out what you love and do something like with it, either work for someone or create your own business, what you're doing is you're giving yourself permission to take the things that energize you the most, light you up, and incorporate them into your life every day. And then all of a sudden, when I say, do you want to take a vacation? You have to think about it because you're like, yeah, like it'd be really nice, but I like have this thing and how am I going to fit in a vacation and do this at the same time? Right? Because now your vacation is your life. You made it that way. And like, it's just creating a life that's inspiring to you, understanding who you are, dedicating your life to that, being that person. We all have it inside of us. We're all allowed to do it. It's like a gift we've been given, and it does take work, but it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. I promise it's worth it.
I
Promise.
believe that. I believe that
Yeah.
100%. I mean, once you're able to answer those questions, you gain that clarity on what you're meant to do in this life, and then it's a game changer. Basically, like you then figure out, yeah, I am born to do this, and no matter what people say, you just believe that, yeah, this is who I am. Maybe other people don't understand it. Maybe they're not the right set of people that match to this purpose of mine. I'll find people that definitely match, understand.
Be drawn to you as well. Like even me just being me, like doing my thing, right? I'm gonna connect with people who at this event that are more in alignment with who I am. The ones who judge who I am, they're immediately, it's like a magnet, right? Like it's like a magnet. The ones who judge who I am and think that I shouldn't be the way I am, they're the magnet where it's a positive charge to positive charge, and they just repel from me. Right? Just by being myself, like I just repel the people that I wouldn't get along with. Right? But the ones who actually don't judge me, like feel more connected, like we'll be magnetized towards each other. That's the positive negative. And it's like we're just drawn towards each other. Right? So it's like you don't even have to think about it. You don't have to cultivate it. You don't have to worry about it. Just be yourself. Be yourself, and you will magnetize individuals to you, and you'll repel the ones that aren't even like going to connect with you anyways. And it's kind of like you said, you don't have to make everyone happy. You know, why would you want to? Everyone doesn't make you happy. You know,
No.
you're repelled by people. Like, you know, like I do that. I'm repelled by certain people where I'm like, not in my life values or purpose. Like, sorry,
Mhm.
you're super cool. You have your own crew, but not mine. Right? I'm repelled by people. Like, so it's like, let people be repelled by you so that we're not trying to force these relationships that like don't exist. Be yourself, be authentic, and there'll be that the opposite ends of the magnet that repel the ones that we're not meant to connect with and draw in the ones that we're meant to connect with, that we're meant to be aligned with. It's really an interesting dynamic when we just get authentic and we give ourselves permission to do it.
Yeah. That's the word. Give yourself permission to be yourself, to be your true, authentic self. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kylie, I have like one last question, and that is, let's imagine, okay, let's say we're already on that journey, on that life purpose of ours, and we're achieving our goals already. At some point, sometimes imposter syndrome just kicks in, and we feel like I don't deserve to be here. I'm not qualified enough to be on this level. How do we deal with that feeling?
Yeah. So this imposter syndrome, we ask ourselves, a great question to say is if you say, I don't deserve to be here, well, who do I think does? Right. And this goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, because who do you think deserves to be here? And why do they deserve to be here and you don't? What do you think they have that you don't? You again have infatuated with them. You've put them on the pedestal and you've said that they have something that you don't. And then we like ask ourselves that question is, where do I have this in my own unique form? Right? Which I gave you guys the examples of with like kind of the dynamic of parenting and business, right? And how we can kind of intertwine all these different systems. And so it's like, how do I find that within myself, right? I've worked with athletes, and I still work with like athletes from time to time. I don't have to know about sports to work with athletes, right? If I go in and I say, well, this person should work with athletes because they know about sports, I don't need to know about sports. But it's like, what do they know? And I've done this, it's like, what did I think that they had that I didn't? And I said, I thought that they understood what it meant to be like an athlete and how to train an athlete, right? And then I went and I was like, how do I know how to train an athlete? And I was like, I know the mindset component. It's like, I've got this down. I know that when we get puffed up and proud, like we get injured. right? And so it's like, well, I know how to help someone clear their pride so that they don't have to like have injuries all the time as an athlete, which is incredibly challenging, right? And it's the same in business. I remember doing this in business as well, because it's like, I know how to help people with their pride so they don't have to have the humbling circumstances to the same degree in their businesses. And it's not chaos all the time. And we can bring greater balance and order and structure so they can move on and actually tackle their vision, right? And it's like, I'm sitting here thinking that I have to know all these things in a specific way because I've said that this person who I believe deserved to be there had what I didn't, right? And it's like, well, where do I have it in my form? And the great thing about this is like, if you're doing a business or you're doing coaching, this is your target market. This is your niche. This is the core of who you are. This is what you're selling. And you just go find the people. Like, I'm not going to go find the person. I don't find the athlete who says, I want to be better in soccer and like learn how to move my foot in the perfect way. That's not me. I can't even describe it like properly. I'm probably butchering it because it's not me. But I could go target that person and say, you know, for the individual who keeps suffering the injuries and can't get back on track and really wants to understand why they keep creating this dynamic and the mindset, they keep judging themselves, comparing themselves to other athletes. That's my client, right? And I know that because I asked that question, where is it in my form? I'm not going to go into the business and be like, well, I'm going to go into your cash flow and I'm going to do an audit. I'm going to get on my computer and put it into financial software and like audit it. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to like do day-to-day tasks with you to help you get to the other side. No way, man. I will come in and I will coach you. I will help you with your own personal blocks, the own things that's like that you're struggling with and help you get to the other side that way. I also do help people. Like I do some cash flow stuff with people as well, where I will look at numbers and I will look at their companies and I will help them come up with new strategies and solutions. But again, I'm not the implementer. I'm not the CPA. I know who I am. I'm the overview person. I take a look at it. We find the gaps. We see where the gaps are internally. We see where the gaps are externally. We make a plan and you go take action, you know? And then if you have some stuff that comes up where you're not believing in yourself, you have imposter syndrome, you know, you're like, how am I going to do this? Like, I see where I'm going to go, but I don't know how to do this. It's like, then we work on it. And so when you ask that question, when the imposter syndrome comes in and you say, who do I think can do it? Who do I think actually belongs there? What do they have that I don't? Where is it in my form? All of a sudden you give yourself permission to express it in the way that you've been mastering for potentially your whole life, like potentially your whole life. So it's really quite inspiring when you give yourself permission. It's changing the quality of your questions in a sense, you know, or even the tone. Maybe you ask yourself instead of being like, what's wrong with me? It's like, well, what is wrong in this moment? Like, where am I not asking the right question? Right. So we kind of change the tonality and we go from being like a victim and asking questions in victim mode. Why is this happening? Why is this occurring? To like, well, why is this happening? Why is this occurring? You know, I have this challenge right now and I can't seem to get out of it. I wonder why I created it. I wonder what I'm getting out of it, that I've been stuck in it for so long. And when you answer that question, you're like, I'm actually not stuck. This is a meaningful place to be. Okay, I got this. Well, yeah, change the quality of the questions and you can change the quality of the answers. And part of it, you know, I know not everyone can afford a coach. I 100% could not afford a coach in the beginning of my journey. Percent. I got information from podcasts. I got information from freebies, downloads, all this stuff, all this different information. And it was really quite helpful for me until I can afford to get someone who could be side by side with me. So take advantage of us. Like, there's a reason why I love to do podcasts. I want to return the favor for all those amazing people who gave me so much information that really helped me along the way.
Yeah,
By the way, thank you.
It's so amazing. Thank you so much for giving back by being on this podcast, also to share all of this knowledge. I've learned so much from you. I've learned about, you know your true self, your authentic self, giving yourself permission to be who you are and embracing every part of yourself, the good, the bad, the nice part, the not so nice part of yourself, and just, you know, fulfilling your purpose and matching with the right people. The wrong relationships for you fade away, we die away. It's normal. It's part of life. I learned that all from you, Carly. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. For people out there who would still like to ask more questions after this conversation, I would still want to work with you and, you know, maybe get some of the resources that you have out there. What's the best way to connect and work with you?
Yeah, head on over to my website, which is carlypepin.com, and then you can connect with me there directly. all the fun social media platforms. You can get extra information. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, you just reach out.
Awesome. I'm going to place the link to your website in the show notes of this episode. It's going to be available once this episode is aired. And I encourage everyone to copy the link, to click on the link and reach out to you. Thank you so much, Carly. I really appreciate speaking with you today.
Thank you too.
Hey there, podcast enthusiasts. Are you ready to add a little sparkle to your day? If you're loving the insightful conversations and captivating stories on Mirror Talk Podcast, here's a friendly nudge to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on the empowering messages and thought-provoking discussions we bring to your ears. But wait, there's more. We're all about spreading positivity and inspiration, and you can be a part of it too. How? By sharing the love with your friends and family. Share this episode with your loved ones, and let's create a ripple effect of empowerment and growth together. And hey, if you've been enjoying what you hear, why not take a moment to leave us a glowing 5-star review? Your feedback fuels our passion to keep delivering content that resonates with you. So hit that subscribe button, share the love, and leave us a review. Let's keep the conversation going and spread the Mirror Talk magic far and wide. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, your support means the world to us.